go ahead and call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Chris Brown. Here. Amy Grantham.
Here.
Nancy Hopper.
Present.
Katie Jeff.
Here.
John Crowdy.
Here.
Randy Smith. Here. Sarah Whitney.
And would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before you, you have the minutes from the special meetings on January 8th and 9th for approval. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second. Having the motion and the second, roll call, please.
Chris Brown. Aye. Amy Grantham.
Aye.
Nancy Hopper.
Aye.
Katie Jeff.
Aye.
John Crowdy.
Aye.
Randy Smith.
Aye.
Sarah Whitney.
And the agenda for this evening is before you. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second. Second.
Roll call, please.
Chris Brown. Aye. Amy Grantham.
Aye.
Nancy Hopper.
Aye.
Katie Jeff.
Aye.
John Crowdy.
Aye.
Randy Smith. Aye. Sarah Whitney.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the opportunity for public comments. So I'm going to go ahead and read our policy before we start with the speakers. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person or group. Members of the public are welcome to speak before the Morgan County School District RE3 Board of Education during public comments. The Board of Education appreciates your input. Please note that board members will not respond to public comments. The board president may interrupt or terminate an individual statement when it is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, repetitive, or irrelevant. Thank you for your time and your input. Sincerely, the Board of Education.
I'm Chad Unrein, the principal at Fort Morgan Middle School, and today I come before you with quite a few of our staff members here to ask the board to support the Board of Education, the waive the policy GBEA for a 2-year period. That waiver will allow Audra Unrein, my wife, to remain as counselor at Fort Morgan Middle School. I think in the letter it requested that it be the next 2 years, but I know that Rob has talked to you about being this year and for next year, and so we're asking that that be supported to allow her to stay. Today you'll see letters supported from the staff that they composed on their own will, supporting her being able to stay at the middle school during that period of time. Also presented to you guys was a letter from the BAC committee asking for this waiver to be presented to the Board of Education tonight, which had 100% support of the attending BAC committee members for that. On a personal note, as principal of Fort Morgan Middle School, my intent is to hire the best individuals possible for the job at every job that we have. The teaching shortage right now has made that difficult, right? You get the human resources report every month, and you know that we do not have a ton of applications for jobs. And so I feel that this policy, not only for tonight, but going forward, maybe where we don't have to present a waiver, should be looked at by the board in the future. Because our job, I think, is to get the most highly qualified people in positions to help our school district be successful. And so that I would like you guys to look at that further even after tonight. But for tonight's purposes, you know, it takes unique individuals, which you will see out here. We'll call them unique, to work in a middle school, right? That's when you usually talk to people on the streets that say, hey, you work in a middle school, they go, oh, are you crazy? And you guys have all had middle school children, and at some point, I'm guaranteeing you, you probably said to yourself, what is wrong with my child? Okay? And the reason that's funny is because it's true, right? Those are tough ages. And it takes these unique individuals there to help those kids get through those tough times to be successful later on. We have a counselor that loves the middle school, right? It's not for everybody. We sat with a counseling position open for 1.5 years with no applications, all right, before we were able to finally find our third counselor, okay? And so to look at moving an individual from the building that loves middle school, I don't think is a wise move on our parts. And so, again, I hope that you'll look at that you'll support this policy and look at it in the future. Because the reality is, if we waive it for 2 years, I'm back here next January doing the same thing. Okay? It's stressful. Tears have been shed. But it's the reality we are. And it's not a personal attack on us. I understand that as a board policy, right? And so we need to look at that board policy and move forward. But hopefully tonight we can get it cleared up for the next 2 years so we know where we're at. The reason we presented it here in January is that it's hiring season, so we need to know where we're at and what we need to do. And so I appreciate you listening to me, and we'll go forward. All right? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments?
Hi, I'm Amy Bauer. I'm a student leadership teacher at Fort Morgan Middle School. I really wish you guys were middle schoolers. Right now, I feel a lot better. I'm so proud of our staff. Look at them, all dressed up, ready to go. This is a big deal for us. It's obviously a really big deal for us. 7 o'clock on Monday night, here we are, way past my jammy time, as people can attest to, but we were not going to miss a chance to support Chad and Audra. We do love our unrinds. But kind of piggybacking on what Chad was talking about, this is much bigger than just the Fort Morgan Middle School. When you talk about implementing this policy district-wide, there are bigger ramifications. And if I may, I'd like to read just the last paragraph of my letter that I sent because I think it sums up things really well. And it says, the question that keeps coming to my mind concerns our small community and goes well beyond this policy just impacting FMMS. Morgan RE3 has struggled so much, will that matter? Okay, so much, okay, let me start again. Morgan RE3 has struggled so much with retention. Why are we even contemplating trying to make it more difficult? Don't we want families to be here? Don't we want teachers and other staff members to find partners and continue to live and work in our district? What would it say to our employees if we support a policy like this, that we don't trust them to be professional? That even though they've earned a college degree and more often than not a master's degree, we don't think that they can handle working in the same building as a family member? We all know that educators don't get the respect they deserve from the outside world. Do we want to embody those same opinions from within our own system? Perhaps this policy could be reviewed and revised to reflect our town and circumstances and could be implemented when, and more importantly, if a problem occurs. I thank you for your time. Go Colts, go Morgan RE3.
Thank you, Mrs. Bauer. Any other public comments?
Hi there, I'm Trish McLean. I do not work at the Fort Morgan Middle School. I'm a parent of a actually 2 middle schoolers, so I completely get when you say, what is wrong with my children? So I just wanted to say that I support this. I've been in your shoes, And I know that there have been times when this policy hasn't been followed and it hasn't caused an issue. And I think that I just really respect Chad for bringing it forward to address it. And I think that's very honorable of him. All my kids have gone through the middle school, and I've never felt like there was a conflict. And honestly, Chad doesn't even evaluate Audra. Marina does. So I don't see a huge issue, but thank you for your consideration. All right, because I can't write and talk at the same time. It's too hard. See, I'm not as good as the middle school teachers. I can't multitask. Thanks.
Thank you. Any others? Other brave souls? Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. We have a special presentation for the 2023-2024 final budget brought to you by Mrs. Tony White.
So this may be a little bit daunting to look at. I want to spend a little time helping you work through this budget book to see what you're looking at. I'll start with saying that we're proposing a deficit spending on the final budget of $732,864. The preliminary budget was approved with a deficit of $728,826. So I want to take you through the budget, show you where that comes from, and how to read this document. The first thing is the page with the graphs. It's page 2, I believe. The graphs have kind of brought it a little more understanding because it breaks it down. The top one is the general fund revenues and where they come from. So the blue area would be your property taxes and interest. The large gray area would be the state equalization. And then there's a small portion, the yellow is federal grants. That's going to probably really be minimal next year because the federal grants are going away. And then that little piece of the pie is transfers and allocations, which general fund supports other funds, which you'll see when we go through this book, and they have to transfer money in there so they can spend the money. The next two graphs are just a way to look at the spending. The middle one is by program, so everything in education is broken down into different programs like instructional, pupil services, general administration, maintenance, transportation, those kind of things. Then we can also break it down in another category, breaking out the salaries, benefits, purchase services, etc. And as you can see, salaries are the biggest portion of our budget. And so we want to make sure we can account for those. Let's move on to, we're going to look at page 4. The second page, this is just a graph of the student count. And the state equalization is based on these student counts every year. That's how they decide how much they're going to give us. So that just gives you a year-over-year view of what has happened with those. Looking at page 4, this is the overall summary of what is going to happen in the general fund. And then a lot of the pages behind that are just the support for these numbers. If you can see on the far column is the proposed budget that we're looking at tonight. We're starting off with a general fund balance of $11.5 million. It sounds like a ton of money, but we have a lot of expenditures, so we want to be careful with that, but I feel like we're diligent with those monies. Going down, you can see at the bottom of the page, the deficit is the $732,864. Normally, just so you're aware, we do not put we don't put the district in a deficit position just paying salaries and benefits because those are ongoing, and that would be a black hole you'd never recover from. The deficit, especially this one, is resulting from things that were long overdue to be done in the district. We were way behind on our IT area, and we put quite a bit of money into that. We had teachers that it was taking them 20 and 25 minutes to log onto their computers because they were so slow. And our new IT director, Galen, has done a great job of having a good plan of how to get things up to speed. He has gotten new computers into a lot of the classrooms. They're getting Promethean boards, which are way more useful than the smart boards because they can move around the classroom. They're not tied to a wall. They can move them around and have different areas to educate. So that's a lot of the expenditures, and we'll see that as we go through this booklet. If you want to look at page, let's see, page 5 is a detail of the categories on page 4 for the revenues. So like local revenues, that first section tells you what is in there. So there's property taxes, SO taxes, and interest. So it gives you a more of a detail of what those numbers are on that page 4. Then pages 6, 7, 8, and 9 are further detail of what you're looking at in that expenditure section. So like the instruction, well, what's in there? There's the salaries, benefits, the different things that are associated with just that instructional piece. And then anything that is 11, 12, 13, 14, and 19 is considered the educational piece. The other parts are support, different support sections, and we'll kind of go through that a little bit. If you look at pages 10 through 25, each of those is a summary page of each of these detailed things on page 6 through 9. The only addition there would be it tells you how many people are actually working in that section. Just, it's kind of overkill a little bit, but just so you know, it's not new information on those pages, it's just presenting it in a different way. So just a kind of quick overview of what these are. Program 11 is instructional. It's just teachers in a regular classroom. Section number 12, program 12 is special education. Program 13 is like business teachers, vocational teachers. Program 14 is all the stipends for the different coaches for the sports. Program 19 is bus transfers and different things in order to get these activities where they need to go. That would fall in that one. Then looking at support services, the 2100 series is counselors. The 2200 series is nurses, psychologists, assistant superintendent, over curriculum. All of those expenses would fall onto that page. Program 2300 would be your superintendent and board of education expenses. 2400 would be all your principals and their secretaries and staff that it takes to run their schools. Section 2500 is my department, the finance department, so your accounts payable, accounts receivable, me, the assistant CFO, that's where we fall under. And then 2600 is just your maintenance and operations. It's the guys that run around in uniforms and fix things around the district. They're in charge of like the grounds and anything that breaks and installing new things that we buy. 2700 is transportation. That would take care of all the needs of buses and vehicles to get to special events. So any of the people that work within that department would be captured on that page. 2800 is the IT department and HR. They're housed together in that department. And so if you want to look on that page 22, I think that's on there. A little bit up from the bottom, there's a number 905,600 is how much we've dedicated to additional equipment for IT to get this district up to a really good place in our classrooms. That's not something that's going to happen every year, but it was something very necessary to take place now. And then 2900 is something new to the district this year. It's the Boys and Girls Club of America. That is completely funded by grant money and is not paid for by the general fund. And 3300 is community services. The only thing that falls into that program is we have an athletic trainer who handles injuries and PT for our athletes and then recommends if they need further treatment from a doctor, just kind of evaluates any injuries that we have, puts them on a program for healing. And then the 4000 series is property services. This is, we have 2 projects in the district right now that fall under general fund. We're doing an HVAC fix in this building because it was bad. And then we are also we've done the LED lighting across the district to try to save money long term. So those 2, the payment of the lease payment on the lights, because we don't own them until we're finished with the lease, and then the cost of doing the HVAC are housed in this one. Okay, and that covers all our general fund stuff. So we're going to move on to the mill levy fund, which is page 26. This is a special fund that's set up to capture all the revenues that are given to us because of a mill levy override voter. It was a voter item years ago, and it's ongoing. The money is used to just do upkeep for the district. We usually get around $500,000 in that fund, and so this is just monies that are used for that. This particular year, we budgeted over what we're expecting to get, because there was a residual fund balance that kept coming forward, and the money really is meant to be spent in the year we get it. There's going to be a little overlap because property taxes are collected towards the end of the school year, but we don't want to continue to have $500,000 just sitting there and when it could be spent during that year. Looking at page 27, after-school daycare. We're working on, well, I shouldn't say working, Esther has already come up with some new rates because we were way below the norm for Fort Morgan. We do feel like it's a very worthwhile program for our town, and so the general fund does have to assist and put funds in there, but we're always looking for better ideas on how they can be more self-funded as well. CAP reserve fund, that is one of the funds that general fund allocates to every year. It is board policy that we allocate $519,000 a year to be used to spin up the district, fix things within the district, whatever. We have a meeting prior to the preliminary budget to go over expectations and needs in the district. We usually talk to all the principals, transportation, maintenance, and we hash it out until we can come up with a number that matches what we have to spend. The insurance reserve is page 29. There's like 10 transactions a year in this fund, but the general fund does fund that. After we get our estimate from the insurance company what they think we're going to have to spend that year, that's how we come up with what we're going to have to fund in this fund. There's also some residual workman's comp claims that come out of there, but they're pretty minimal, so it's not a huge amount. On page 30, we have the preschool fund. That used to be funded from general fund. It is no longer. It is now funded by Universal Preschool, UPK. It's an interesting endeavor that they basically started down the road and now they're coming up with the rules. But we're supposed to be in a hold harmless year, which means that we'll get at least as much as we got last year when it was funded by general fund. Should be going into the UPK. I think they're coming along. We've at least found some good contacts with the state that we can say, hey, this isn't working, and they've been, working with us on that. Page 31 is food service. That is something that is funded a lot by federal grants for the most part. There are still some student charges, but there's also a lot of free and reduced lunches that are in that group. Last year, we were advised by the state that we needed to spend that fund down because they really only want you to have a certain amount in your fund balance going forward. They want the money spent on food service. So we filed a plan with the state on different things we were going to use that money so we could spend down that fund balance, which is why we're planning a deficit in the food service of $367,000. It gets us in line with what the state wants us to have for a fund balance. Fund 22 is page 32. Okay. That is where all the federal and state grants are housed, and that's where Rena and her team work. They do a great job of bringing money in the district. It really takes a lot of pressure off the general fund that we're able to use those programs. It's pretty much an in and an out fund. They don't make money. If it comes in, they spend it. If there's money left over, they defer it to the next year. So they don't make money in that fund. Page 33 is the pupil activity fund, and that pretty much explains it's what all the activities where they raise money in programs and they have different clubs. That money is in there, and then they spend it within those clubs. There's usually a carryover, but that fund is not meant to make money. They just they're supposed to spend it when they make it, and we're trying to get a little bit better system for them to know what they have, so that they can get that spent. We had a time period there where nobody knew how much they had because we were shorthanded in finance, and it was like the last thing we had time to work. But we're getting there. So, building fund. Most of what is in this fund is the money generated from the bond issue for Legion Field. There's a little residual fund balance from previous projects that were done through the district. So the expenditures on here are what we're planning and hoping to spend at Legion Field, and also the new PA system for the middle school. It is just not functioning well at all, and they're always putting a Band-Aid on it, so we're gonna take care of that and get that fixed. In the bond redemption fund, that's page 35. This is the property taxes that are levied so that we can pay our bond debts every year. We make 2 payments a year. One is interest and one is interest and principal. We do a calculation to make sure that we charge enough for property taxes to cover our debt. And we're doing really well in that fund. It's just kind of an in and out thing. And then page 36 is the private purpose fund. That's where all the scholarships that are funded from different trusts and things are housed. And then they all have specifications on how that money can be spent, like how much per student, or if it needs to be in a music program. So all that is flowing through here in the scholarship fund. Okay. The last thing I want to show you is these 2 pages. The first one is the appropriations resolution. This basically summarizes what I've just told you on all the different funds and what's happening. This tells you how much we're going to spend in each category, the general fund, mill levy, daycare, all of those things. These numbers will tie directly back to the budget book that I just showed you. And then the board has to approve that we are allowed to spend this amount of money. We are not allowed to go over without coming back to the board. So we have to keep an eye on that for sure. And then the other resolution is the authorization to have deficit spending to use some of the beginning fund balances for some of these funds that need a little extra care this year. So if you look in that middle column, that's the amount that we're asking to use from the beginning fund balances. None of these fund balances are going below 0. None of them are even going to 0. This is just, can we use some of that money that's sitting there and needs to be used? And then that will show you the projected ending balance for all of the funds as well. And that is the budget in a nutshell. Any questions?
Yeah, on page 35, when we're talking about the, in that page, you're talking about the bond that we did for Legion Field?
Yes.
Okay.
And so
we're talking about spending money from that bond to pay for a PA system?
no, the PA system is from residual monies that were left over from other projects.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to make
Yeah.
sure, because I don't want to be.
No, we're not
Get ourselves
mixing
in trouble
those
with
two
that.
up. No, we keep them very separate. Yeah.
Okay, I
Good
just wanted
question,
to
though.
clarify that.
Yeah.
Because it sounded like. we
Yeah,
were
the
spending-
bond is the bond, and
The
it
bond
all
is the
stays
bond.
there. And it's all
That's-
leaving. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I just wanted to
Yep.
make sure we had that clear separation. Thank you.
Yep.
Next on the agenda, we have reports. So we will hear from our Fort Morgan High School student representative, Kenya Hansen-Guzman.
Well, we're back. Happy New Year. It has been kind of getting back into, into the swing of things, especially with the snow day. It's kind of been a slow start to the month. Sports seasons are still on their way. As far as this week, wrestling is on Thursday, and everything else is kind of away. MCC has been hosting FAFSA nights, so senior parents can come in and get help trying to figure out their FAFSAs, especially with the delay in FAFSA this year. It's been super helpful. Knowledge Bowl has had meets all of this month on Saturdays. And then this Saturday, the high school is hosting, Optimus is hosting it, but it's housed at the high school, Brain Bowl. So that is elementary students 1st through 6th grade. I think 6th grade is involved in that. And I know that there will be some volunteers. I know National Honor Society is also working on that, so it'll kind of be a community-wide event. Today there was Holyoke Honor Band, and I know that Mr. Lemaire brought 5 students from Fort Morgan to that. The spring musical, which is the SpongeBob, is currently being worked on. Auditions have been figured out, and I know costumes are underway, sets are underway. People have started running lines, and the pit is working on it as well. The Ethnic District competition is on Wednesday. Speech and debate have their state tournament on Friday and Saturday of this week. And finally, this Friday is career day, so that should be super fun today. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Kenya. Next, we have board reports. So we will hear from Chris Brown.
That would be me. We met last Thursday. Mostly we just, president, vice president, and secretary, and just basic conversation. Mark Michael talked about, he said a hot topic for some trainings he's going to do is AI training. I think Rob knows about that maybe. I've got some books, a couple books that are BOCES program guides, if anyone's interested in having one of those. And that would be my report.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Next, we have the superintendent report.
Okay, thank you. I want to add one thing on there. We sent out a, well, first of all, I think, thank you for coming tonight. That's great. Nice show. So, enjoy having you guys all here. So, if you're a parent, if you're somehow involved in the school with a student, you should have received a survey on the 4-day week. And if you would mind scrolling over to just the overall results, we sent this out before Christmas, or just right after Christmas break. We got back in, and then we gave a few weeks for people to take a look at it, because we're getting into that calendar building season. We're going to get our calendar committee together. We had a lot of fun doing that last year. I think we're going to do it very similar to this year. And so we wanted to get some initial data about how can we potentially make the calendar that we built better. How can we change it? But we wanted to just give you some initial information at this point. When we looked at it, there was a total of about 552 people who responded to this, and that consisted of administration, staff, parents, and students. And so we got it from all groups. And as you can see there, one of the things that I predicted a long time ago was that even though when we started this out, it was about a 50-50 proposition. There was about 50% in favor, 50% against. And as time has gone on, in every district I've ever seen do this, it's the same thing. After the first year or two, this one happened a little quicker, you start to see it shift more of about a 75 in favor to 25 against. And this is about what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a little higher, about 78% in favor, with about 19-20% not in favor. And it wasn't that we were going to change. It just, we were asking, did you like it or did you didn't like it? And if there was something you wanted to improve, please write it down. And so we got lots of comments. It's about 28 or some pages long. And so we're hoping to give that information to the calendar committee, and you can, the board can absolutely have it with email, and I just didn't want to kill a bunch of trees to print it out. But the calendar committee will take a look at some of these things, and as we go through, we'll see if we can incorporate some of those things in the calendar, and we're hopeful to have a calendar. I am hopeful to have a calendar back to be presented to the board for approval for next year in the March 5th meeting. So I know that's going to be kind of a quick turnaround, but when you start looking at the calendar itself, not a lot of changes can be made once you've got yourself into this. So we'll find that out through that process. We'll have a couple, 3 or 4 meetings, whatever it takes, and we'll present a calendar. We'll actually put it out to 2 calendars if we can come up with them, to the staff to vote on, and then we'll present the winning back to the board for approval in March. So pretty excited about that. Very nice in terms of the turnout. We broke it down on the top as far as how many people in each position responded. So we had a 60% that responded with parents, and with 21% being staff. So I think that's a pretty good return.
We had a lot of people who marked that they were parents and staff, of course. And so if you did that, I put you in the staff category. I mean, just so we could see how many staff actually responded.
And On there, it says great news. Well, some great news if you walk through the front side of the district office. You can see that we are quite torn up. One of the things that we're working on right now is we're hoping to have this re-vented by the end of this week, we're hoping, and have that all buttoned back up and look good. And then they can start working on the projects in the other buildings with the HVAC. One of the reasons we started here was because we don't have any students over here, so it was just much easier to work around it. As far as any other projects we got going on, the soccer field, the lights we're getting trained on the lights Friday. We got the new lights at the gym working. I hear that looks really phenomenal at this point with the nice spotlight. We're getting ready to start the new entryway at the football field, at Legion Field. It's going to welcome us all in at both the football field and the soccer field. I don't remember how many stalls are going to be available, but ladies, wait till you hear this. I think it's like 18 women's stalls or something like that. I know it's not even enough. And there's like 2 men.
There it is.
So, no, it's going to be a lot better and a lot more accessible. It's a little further away from the football field, but we do share it with the soccer field, so we need to make sure that we put it in a spot that was accessible to both. But that's starting down there, which is kind of exciting. The bleachers on the soccer field should be up in March, and the kids should be starting practice on there. The girls, anytime now, they're welcome to use the field, so we just have to get the stuff put on it. Some more good news. Let's see here. You got an email from Mr. Anderson just a bit. It's on my phone. And I just want to let you've been invited to the Career Day up at Fort Morgan High School on February 2nd. They're going to have over 80 different professions there represented, and you'll be able to come up and see them, what the presentations are. They have some keynote speakers. It starts at 8 o'clock, and you're all invited to come and see what's going on there. It's a pretty exciting time. I went last year, and there was a lot of buzz in the room, and it was a lot of fun for the kids and for the employers coming in. So that's exciting. So this Friday, 8 o'clock, is great. And then the last thing, well, one more great news, and this is really, really good news. And I'm going to embarrass someone up here, I believe. I just got to get it on my phone here because I have it written down. So we have a student among us that sits on the board here and talks to us. Her name is Kenya Hanson Guzman. And I just wanted to pass along to you that maybe it's changed since the last time I heard it. You can update me. But she had applied for a Koch scholarship, and there were 103,000 students across the nation who applied for this scholarship. She has been informed that she has been whittled down to the top, in the top 250 in the nation. She will find out if she goes on to the next round on February 2nd or 3rd in that time frame.
My interview is on Friday.
Okay. And if she's successful, it's a $20,000 scholarship. So congratulations, Kenya. It's awesome. And good luck.
Thank you.
And then the last thing, we have the Board Appreciation Month, and I just wanted to express my gratitude for being able to work with you and work for you. Enjoy it, and I know it's sometimes a thankless position, and it's not always an easy position, but I do my best to make it easy for you, and so I just appreciate everything you do, and enjoy your month now that it's over. So that's my report, unless you have any questions.
Quick question. On the, going back to the surveys that you received, was there any themes, overarching themes that came out of the comments?
Yes, the overarching theme was the length of the day. And that, Mindy was there and saw some of the overarching theme was the length of the day for both student and staff. But some of them turned around and said, there's not a lot we can do about it, but just make note of it. And I don't know if there's a lot we can do about it at this point, but I'm hoping we can be creative somewhat.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Next we have the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Assessment, Dr. Rita Frasco.
Good evening, everyone. And way to show up middle school. So as you all know, and you've already heard that I evaluate Audra, so obviously I'm a huge supporter. So to my report, just a couple things. The social studies curriculum adoption is about to try out, and I will be in touch with you hopefully by March to go forward with an adoption process for next year. And then the only other thing I had was regards to assessment. I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Shelly McConus. Because I've been on medical leave, she's been taking care of all of the access testing, and it's gone pretty smooth. And I think my voice does not match my mouth, so I'll stop talking.
You would be correct.
Thank you, Rena. Next, we have the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
Good evening. Thank you. Just also a reiteration, I work with Coach Nadra, extremely professional individuals who can handle that situation very well. Personal action report you guys have in front of you. Not a lot of surprises there, a little more turnover in the classified than we'd like, but kind of a standard look. If there's any questions, more than happy to answer on that. Summary of active job openings. Right now we have 2 certified, 4 classified, 5 coaching, and then we have our standard alternate licensure sub and resume postings as well. We have a new hire in the HR department, Suzanne Keating. Will be coming on board with us next week as our HR specialist. Suzanne was a graduate of Fort Morgan High School, has served the last 10 years as a paralegal up in Greeley, and prior to that, 12 years at a bank. So quite a bit of experience that she's bringing to us. The HR role is a little bit new, and we'll have a learning curve there, but I think she's super capable of learning that for us. At the same time, I want to thank Bev. In the last month or so, she's really helped pick up the pieces in the HR world of onboarding people and that piece of it. So thank you, Bev. Critical shortage process. I'm sure you've heard a little bit about this. Critical shortage is essentially a 1-year position. It's a teacher who has chose to retire and come back on critical shortage, allowing them to work. That is technically a 1-year contract, and we're working to clean that up a little bit from the district with some potential 1-year contracts that reference that directly. But work with FMEA in our negotiations group, their leadership group. We will be posting all 17 of those critical shortage positions by the end of January. The application process is just simply write a letter if you'd like to return into that position. And then the principals after it's been posted for 5 days can recommend a hire after a interview process with them, or continue to leave it open and look for other quality candidates too. And so that list of 2 certified is going to change to about 17, 18 more here in the next couple of days. But I also think that we have some very, very good staff that we're planning to bring back in all reality with the critical shortage. Critical shortage can be 6 years of that position. That we can be back for 6 consecutive. Finally, last thing is FME negotiations, and we had our first meeting with that leadership group. The first meeting was just simply discussion of language. This is a language year, so discussion of things that we'd like to address in the agreement. We have the first 2 weeks after that meeting to exchange any items that we'd like to discuss, and then moving forward, it just becomes a collaborative process. Excited about that opportunity. FMEA and the district have an extremely good relationship, and look forward to that being a fairly smooth process on our language changes. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frasco. Next, we have the Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Tony Miller. Again.
I just have, I wanted to give you an update on our audit. I would say it's been really fun doing audit and budget at the same time. It's great. They were on site for a full week, week before last. I feel like we're getting really close to being done with field work. The requests are getting shorter and shorter. Once we get through all of the field work, then they will submit the report to the partner in charge, and they'll review it. We have to have it uploaded to the state by the last day of February. So we'll be having a special meeting when I have the date nailed down, where you all get the audit presented, and then I can upload it to the state. So excited to see that meeting coming to an end.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, we have the consent agenda. So before you is the personnel action report.
Actually, we have a discussion item first.
Excuse me, it's my first meeting. Discussion item A, Fort Morgan Middle School policy waiver. Is there any discussion? Thank you, John.
Yeah, I actually have a couple things. One, on that, I think it's incorrectly annotated because it should be the 23-24 school year and 24-25 school year, which, because under the current policy, we don't have the authority to go outside of the 2-year boundary. So I think that needs to be modified to ensure that reflects that it actually ends under current policy at the end of the 2025 school year. The second thing is I think we need to make sure that how this is presented next time is compliant with policy GBEA. We don't want to have any perception that there is any potential conflict of interest about how this is coming forward. So that was the only two comments that I had.
Any other discussion? Okay. Next we will move on to the consent agenda. The personnel action report is before you. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Chris Brown? Aye. Amy Grantham?
Aye.
Nancy Hopper?
Aye.
Katie Giaz?
Aye.
John Crotty?
Aye.
Mindy Smith?
Aye.
Sarah Whitney?
Next, we have the claims list of checks from December of 2023. What is the pleasure of the board? Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Chris Brown? Aye. Amy Grantham?
Aye.
Nancy Hopper?
Aye.
Katie Giaz?
Aye.
John Crotty?
Aye.
Mindy Smith?
Aye.
Sarah Whitney?
Next, we have the action items. Action item A, appropriating resolution for 2023-2024. What is the pleasure of the board?
We actually need to approve the consent agenda.
Did we not just?
Well, we kind of did them individually, which is
We
acceptable.
did
We are, we did them.
Sorry, did I mess that up?
No, we can do them individually, so that we can, good,
Are you sure we can?
absolutely,
No.
no, we're good.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Chris Brown? Aye. Amy Grantham?
Aye.
Nancy Hopper?
Aye.
Katie Giaz?
Aye.
John Crotty?
Aye.
Mindy Smith?
Aye.
Sarah Whitney?
Okay, action item B, resolution to expend the beginning fund balance for 2023 and 2024. Is there any discussion?
Well, pleasure of the board.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Chris Brown? Aye. Amy Grantham?
Aye.
Nancy Hopper?
Aye.
Katie Giaz?
Aye.
John Crotty?
Aye.
Mindy Smith?
Aye.
Sarah Whitney?
Action Action item C, Fort Morgan Middle School Policy Waiver, BG-R. What is the pleasure of the board?
I would move to approve with the amended dates, as I stated earlier.
Is there any discussion? For a second? Okay, motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Chris Brown? Aye. Amy Grantham?
Aye.
Nancy Hopper?
Aye.
Katie Jess?
Aye.
John Crowdy?
Aye.
Mindy Smith? Sarah Whitney?
Okay, action item D, stipend for athletic duties during search for new athletic director. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call please.
Chris Brown? Aye. Amy Grantham?
Aye.
Nancy Hopper?
Aye.
Katie Jess?
Aye.
John Crowdy?
Aye.
Mindy Smith? Aye. Sarah Whitney?
Okay, action item E, correction of the title for the salary increase to the mechanic position. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call please.
Chris Brown? Aye. Amy Grantham?
Aye.
Nancy Hopper?
Aye.
Katie Jess?
Aye.
John Crowdy?
Aye.
Mindy Smith? Aye. Sarah Whitney?
Okay, next we have a advanced planning. The next Board of Education meeting is February 5th, 2024. Board of Education will hold a work session prior to the meeting, and the district will be closed in honor of President's Day on Monday, February 19th, 2024. There are no other items to come before the board. We'll call this meeting adjourned at 7:52 p.m.